This is going to be the episode for you. I'm bringing on my friend Miranda Caldwell, and we're going to talk about all things experiential design. If you've never heard that word before, that means what it's like for you as a customer to view a product online, go there, do an actual showing in person, and what the entire transaction looks like. Today, more than ever, I think this matters so much. But so let's not waste any more time. Miranda, I'm going to bring you onto the stream. How are you doing today?
Hey, Justin, how are you? I'm well. Thanks so much for having
Yeah,
me.
I'm super pumped. I've actually been wanting to have you on the podcast for quite some time now. I know you're very busy. Why don't you tell people who you are, where you work, and what type of properties you work on?
Yeah, awesome. So I am a bit of a newbie Toronto agent. I've been in business about 4 years now, but I'm kind of a design nerd and definitely really doubling down on that lately. So, working in Toronto at Core Assets Real Estate and taking all the marketing experience that I had from prior to real estate and really just embellishing that with the real estate world and seeing what that looks like. So that's sort of my jam.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit before we get into the experiential design component. The
Mhm.
marketing brain that you have, I mean, has translated into a massive online presence. I wasn't going to go in this direction to start with, but as you started talking about your experience, don't be shy. We're going to talk about your TikTok channel for a second. It's done exceptionally well. Maybe explain how you think about design, how you're using that, and how you grew your TikTok channel, and then we'll get into the experiential design component.
Yeah, awesome. So TikTok is, and I'm sure you hear everyone saying this, it's an incredible platform for reach. So it really just started as sort of a passion project and touring really incredible homes, like the one I was telling you I went to this morning. And for me, it is about meeting clients, and I've actually had some sort of indirect ways that clients have found me this year through that. But it's a lot about, networking, research, and just being like physically present with properties that are really spectacularly designed. So, I mean, there's no real secret to growing the following, but I think part of the thing is just having that passion and letting that shine through on your videos.
And you've done that in a massive way. I guess, how did that journey happen? Was it just one day you're just going to start posting and you just kind of figured it out on the fly, or were you tactical with the way that you approached it?
I wasn't trying to go viral by any means, but I think during the pandemic in 2020, when a lot of us found that we had more time on our hands, I was able to get out and explore those properties more. And it's really about the small things that you do consistently. So, about once a week, I'll go out and ask permission to tour a very beautiful, stunning property. And I'm always collaborating with the listing agent. So it's not like I'm not getting permission. I'm making sure that they know I'm never going to speak bad about the property. And yeah, it's just getting out there and doing it consistently. And I think that's how you grow, is just people know to expect the same thing, right, from you.
Yeah, and I mean, you're very humble. 6.2 million likes, 215,000 followers, 770 people that you're following. I mean, how do you manage something of that scale? I'm pulling it up on my screen. Let me just show the people what we're actually looking at here. That is absolutely bonkers. How do you manage an account when it's gotten to this size?
I mean, I don't think it's that much work, but you just got to prioritize it. For me, this has been a priority because as a newer agent, coming into the game, I didn't know anyone, and I've actually met some really incredible people doing this. And obviously, the more practice you get, the better you get. So, I mean, it's definitely hard to keep up with comments sometimes, and they can be negative, but you just have to kind of stay positive and understand that, my intentions are always positive. So, just showcasing like the things that I love is my favorite part. So,
Yeah, and I love that. I think you really found kind of your place in that space, and your niche. And I think of you like other friends and guests I've had on the show, like Glenda Baker, for example. Like, she's very dialed in on the type of content she creates, what her language is. So why don't we translate this into the customer experience? So if I'm a consumer and I happen to fall on your TikTok and I watch one of your videos, clearly there's a big design aspect to it. How do you think about the digital impression or the digital experience of your consumers before you even meet them at the property?
so oftentimes, especially in today's world, digital is how people are encountering the property first. And this is why I love the house tours, is because you're actually sort of like flying through or walking through the tours if you're there. And so that impression, like if you're with me in person filming those videos, I care about the smallest minute details that I'm like walking backwards and trying not to trip over stuff, because I want to make sure that they're seeing what I'm seeing in person and it's capturing in the most beautiful light. And so starting with digital is often, I think, the most important part, because if you're not getting their attention digitally, then they're probably not going to visit in person.
So the actual presentation of the property, when you list a property now, do you think about that strategically, or do you just hire a photographer, let him do his own thing? Like, what's Miranda's process?
Absolutely. I mean, I love my photographers. I'm sure they think I'm pretty picky, but when I'm staging, which I'm starting to do a lot more of myself now, and
Yeah.
I love that. We can talk about that after, but I'm thinking of like that hero shot. So what is the first photo, the thumbnail photo? If you think of it like your property's like a Tinder profile, that first photo is the one that's capturing people's attention. Otherwise, they're going to just keep swiping. So I actually stage with those moments in mind. So I know when I'm staging what the best angle is, and I'm going to put the best, most colorful, most interesting art in those shots and make sure the photographer knows that's the angle I want. And that's the one I'm planning to use on my first photo.
Yeah, I mean, you just gave a piece of advice we just heard. We were reading the book Shift. We did a book club internally at Prime, and they talk about that. They're like, the curb appeal of your property, that initial photo in a sea of listings, there's so much inventory right now,
Mhm.
makes such a difference. And the way that you think about the consumer's approach, I think, is very, very critical. If you're watching this video, I would love for you to just comment and maybe give your opinion of what you think is the most valuable impression that somebody like Miranda could provide to a consumer or an agent that's sifting through a sea of properties online. We have Matt LaMarche here. He said first, let's go, Miranda. He dropped that during the
Hey,
countdown.
Matt.
He also said he loves it when marketing people get into real estate. And I think
Yeah.
it is very interesting how you think about it that way. Now, so you're packaging up a property digitally. How do you translate that into, okay, a property launch sequence to get it out to the public and brokers? How do you control that experience? Do you just post it on MLS and hope everything goes okay? Or do you think about it a little bit differently?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously coming from a marketing background, I'm on social media having these conversations nonstop. So I often include my audience in the prep process. Now there's of course, parts of the prep where you don't want them to see, just when it's messy and like the realities of moving. But from, blank slate, clean canvas, I like to show them the staging process. So I've been doing a lot more of that on TikTok as well, and just saying like, "Hey, help me pick a couch. What couch or what art do you think looks better for the staging?" Because we're curating that from top to bottom. And then that's almost what I like to call pre-marketing, which is something I really did a lot when I was digital marketing, is that sort of billboard style marketing. It's like you're not really trying to get bites yet, but you're trying to ingrain the story and the image of that property in their head, so that when it does become available to show, they want to see it and they're already lining up at the door.
You're a smart cookie. I think that's definitely how I think about it, right? Like you're
Yeah.
controlling the narrative of the property versus letting people make their own decisions about it. I did drop your link in all the comments. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So if you want to follow Miranda, click on that. I think so controlling the narrative is super, super important. Now I'm in a buyer's market right now, and so many listings out there. I click on Miranda's property. I for sure follow you on TikTok, because why wouldn't I? I click on your property and I actually book a showing. Let's pretend I'm a consumer and I call you directly. Now, what does that experience look like for you in terms of maybe qualifying them on the property and providing a different level of experience?
I definitely take them through the process. I personally don't like to double end listings. So in that case, specifically for a buyer calling me directly, I would refer them to a colleague. I just feel like I want to best represent my sellers, and that means being unbiased and stepping a little bit aside from that. But if you're physically a buyer going in the property, you're going to notice right at the front door, I'm trying to kind of change your mood right as you go in. So the one listing I have now, we have like a cute please remove your shoes sign, because I find, some of the other ones are very standard and boring looking. But it's not always like the same sign. I try to read the room a lot. So I try to go in the space and really feel like what the vibe is. If there's some things that maybe other people would see as a, downfall, I try to make them more of a bonus, I guess, or like a good thing. So I'll work with it. I'll read the room, and if it's kind of like a vintage vibe place, which could be a downfall for a lot of people, I might play along with that
Mhm.
and play with those motifs and get that to be more of a cheerful thing rather than a thing that they feel like they need to change right away. But I stage inside the fridge. I'm very very specific about, I want a clean fridge. I want nothing broken, as much as possible, and just like fresh paint everywhere. I'm very, very particular. So I've been lucky to work with folks who just kind of hand me the keys and trust me on that front. But it's not easy. Obviously, if you're living in the home, there's other considerations to think about. But yeah, I want you like five senses, like smelling, feeling, feel like genuinely feeling as like just the intangible. I want it all good.
And people say that you just put up a sign and the house sells itself. I mean, does that sound like the house sells itself? I don't really think so.
No, I mean in the market from like February, January, maybe, but I want it to sell itself and then some, and then more than the others that are selling themselves.
Well,
So
I would honestly say even February and March, no, because the way you're presenting a property, you're likely going to get more money for that house than somebody that just beats it up, kicks it on. And I mean, man, what's the worst marketing you've seen from properties that have been launched online? Let's talk about that for a minute.
I've seen MLS photos upside down. People's reflection in the mirror. I've seen like
Stuff you can't mention on this show because we've all seen it in the back channels of real estate groups. It's
yeah,
insane what some people will post, right?
it's shameful sometimes, but I try to, take that as learning lessons and really just understand like what makes it different to, obviously professional photography is like a standard that should be at a minimum, but I've had times where it's like, something's not being shown well, so we need to change it. And even with professional photography, we need to have those communications and those conversations about what we're really trying to do, right?
Yeah. And well, I think part of this conversation, why I wanted to have it with you is you're trying to raise the bar, right? You did it on TikTok. You're trying to do something different. Even your approach, like you didn't go dance on TikTok and do all the things. You didn't do the Glenda Baker videos. Like you're like, I'm going to find my own way. You found your own way. Now you're doing it in the space where you're prepping properties and thinking about it from a five senses perspective. I think that's awesome. And even the way that you talked about the vintage aspect of a home and highlighting that, our mutual mentor, Ryan Serhant, actually one way that we got reconnected, even though we know each other from the JBR's days. Shout out to Hush and that whole crew. Ryan Serhant reconnected us. And, hearing you say that makes me think of him because
Yeah,
you're really searching for the person that wants that house. They want the vintage house and they love the attributes and the quality versus just anybody that'll buy it, right? There is a difference in between those two types of buyers.
absolutely. And the reality is like you get the investors too. Like the last really vintage one that I sold just before summer there, it ended up being an investor who bought it, but we totally played like a vintage surf style vibe. And that was the one with the toast print that I talk about a lot. And it works for everyone. It works really well for the people who are like obsessed with that. And then those people come to the table too. And at the end of the day, the seller makes more money. So that's what our job is, right? So I always tell people as a buyer's agent, you have to ignore the staging.
Yeah.
Because, it's either like I've seen staging that makes a property worse. Like I've seen
Yeah, that's
the
true.
most beautiful architectural, beautiful properties. I walk in, I'm like, it feels like it's like a doctor's office or a dentist's office. And I get those comments a lot on videos. But the house is nice and the staging just falls short. I call that cold staging.
Yeah. And I've seen that actually. That's a great insight. So let's put the shoe on the other foot. We talked about it from the listing agent perspective. Love your ethics there. Now you're a buyer agent. I'm assuming, do people call you off your TikTok videos? Like, have you sold houses off those TikTok videos of the properties you've showcased?
I'm not the same as a lot of people like Tom's Story on YouTube. Like they
Yeah.
get really direct leads. Like they can tell that it's from because they'll say,
That
I
sort
saw
of.
your YouTube video. I've definitely got buyers say they've seen my TikTok videos. I find that people will find me on other social channels and my review sites, and then they'll stumble upon the TikTok, see the presence, and be like, okay, my property can look like that when I work with her. And I'm attracting a lot of folks now who are really keen on design, which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
that's how I know I'm doing the right thing.
no, it's digital bus sign, right? It's, you never know which exactly area it's going to come from for you,
Exactly.
but no, that's awesome. Thinking back about the buyer experience, so you are working with the buyer, you walk into a property. That's cool that you uncover opportunities. We just had a consult last week where we did a virtual tour with the buyer. The photos were horrible. House was awesome. And I'm like, let's put this one on the list. We're like, we don't like it. I'm like, what don't you like about it? They're like, it looks dark. I'm like, they're terrible photos taken with an iPhone. Like,
Yeah.
we need to see this property, floor plan, layout, everything else. So how do you think about your buyer experiential design when you're repping a buyer going through a property?
Yeah, I mean, as a buyer, like I almost didn't buy the house I'm sitting in right now because the photos were just not doing it for me. And then I drove by and I was like, I'm here. I might as well go in. So I always tell people, don't judge a book by its cover, but it goes both ways. Obviously, you're going to be more drawn to the ones that are beautifully staged and less drawn to the ones that aren't. But especially in a market like this, those are potentially the opportunities. Not saying, I mean, from the flip side, I want you to look at the staged ones, but also look at the ones that aren't perfectly presented because chances are someone's not doing their job as well, and that's where you can come in and get your deal, if you will.
I think that's a smart way to think about it. How does your brain work? Does it work in like checklist boxes of like when you're going through stuff, like check, 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 or is this just ingrained in you?
I don't know. I think that some people like have a knack for reading people and reading energy. So I feel like I can read like the energy of a room, for example, and try to draw out the best in it. It's, like, yeah, there's some things that I just feel like I'm more keen on. But design, like if you looked at my desk right now, which I can't show you, it's a mess. My brain has got a million things going on at once. But creatively, like when I'm able to hone in on something, I get like tunnel vision. So there is a checklist to listing a property, but at a certain point, like fresh flowers, real plants if you can, that type of thing, staging the fridge with local businesses. Like there's reasons why I think they work. And then you have to really take it and like make it fit the character of the place.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. Now you get to, and it's so fascinating because I was like, okay, this is going to be a marketing thing. We're going to talk about marketing the property, pre-marketing, marketing, but it seems like it's going a little bit deeper than that. So you get to like the offer process. Like, do you think about the experience that the buyer has through the offer process as well?
Yeah, I mean, I try to make the buying agent feel as comfortable as possible because if they're in a good mood, then the buyer that they're showing the property is in a good mood. So for example, this morning I emailed the folks showing my listing and I said, here's the 2 buzzer codes. So you can definitely go in, park underground. If it's raining, like call each one, someone will answer. And then I said, help yourself to a refreshment. There's a drink in the fridge. It's from a coffee shop that's down the street. The branding of those drinks are like very cute and fun, playful drinks. They're not just like Coca-Cola, not Perrier water. I'm getting like craft boutique brands, basically. And just making sure that they have a picture of the listing so they know the one I'm talking about. Because from the flip side, as an agent, I've been in those pain points where I'm like, I can't find the lockbox and and then I feel less confident showing the property.
Yeah.
So the more information I give the buyer's agent, the better they're going to feel. They're going to feel like a rock star. Hopefully their buyer is going to also feel really good when they're in the unit, physically seeing it.
Again, super smart, because if there's 40 properties I'm showing my buyer, the agent that then provides me a bullet list of everything I need to know and what it's going to be like to actually live there is going to set themselves apart from the other 39 agents that just say open floor concept, quartz countertops, all the same words you read in every single listing description, right?
That's my pet peeve.
They're ubiquitous. Well, teach me how to write a listing description, Miranda.
A listing description is like you're telling a story. I try to think of like, do not regurgitate anything I can find at the top of the listing, please. Like, I know it's 2 bedrooms. I say that sometimes, but
that's funny.
It really depends on the place. Capture the vibe. Start off with like, you're basically writing like a newspaper article. You want your headline to be catchy. If you just say like open concept 3-bedroom home with a walk-in closet, it's like you just described half of the homes in Toronto, if not all of them. And it doesn't stand out at all. Yeah. So there's a lot of people who do it really well. But I look at like traditional media, like Architectural Digest, Dwell. I see how they describe homes and try to capture that language in telling the story about the properties that I list. Because when you're just regurgitating info, it's like I can read that it has, central air. I don't care. Does anyone care? I mean, they do, but they saw it already.
Does anybody care?
Yeah. Not in the first sentence, you don't care. That's for sure.
No. Well, you just worked out an idea by saying that out loud. I was like, when you're writing a listing description, you should really think about it like a YouTube title.
Absolutely.
Christina Smallhorn was on this podcast and she said the same thing. She's like, you can write a a title for an episode like today and call it "How to List a Property," right? Or like we titled this one, "The Perfect Listing Process," right? The perfect condo in King Street West. Like,
Yeah.
there's such a difference between the language choice that you can make there, right?
Yeah. And it's from so many different facets, like the photo, all of the photos, the experience in person, the listing description, the way you present it online. There's just so many layers. I call it like layers of an onion. And you really shouldn't be like the same thing on each layer, because then
Sure.
it's just redundant, right?
Yeah.
So really curating those.
Well, I think people realize that they're being gamified too, right? To a certain extent, you have to break the pattern, both for yourself and for the person that's engaging with you. Because if every house is the best house that they've ever seen, then no house is the best house they've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
So, you talked about your listing descriptions. You said you kind of loop back to the staging process. You're very specific about the way you do the fridges. And what about the house itself? Like the flows of the room, the setup for the furniture. Like, how far do you go? Are you literally like bringing in a truck and moving stuff in yourself?
I wasn't before. I am now, because I like it. I mean, I recognize that it's not something for every agent, and there's a lot of, skills that people have that they would prefer to focus on, and that's totally fine. For me, like, I find that staging inventory can sometimes be limited because of they're, going for the safer option. So
Mhm.
in this one I have now, for example, I bought a blue couch because it's a blue that none of the stagers have. Like, it's sort of like a rich blue, not just like the royal blue that everyone has. Um, I basically bought everything. I spent probably double what I spent on a stager, but now I get to keep everything and I don't have to, pay for another month if the listing doesn't sell. So there's like reasons why I do it. And then I also, the big thing that makes a big difference is art.
Mhm.
Um, Copying, pasting like HomeSense art with like the little metallic design. You know what I'm talking about? Like
I do.
that's cold staging to me. I can tell it's from a HomeSense. Everyone has the same mass-produced piece of art. When you work with a local artist and you can rent pieces from galleries, those local artists, you can tag in the photos online and they'll repost your photo, which not only does it infuse like culture and character into your listing and a real sense of energy because a human being made that,
Mhm.
but also it extends your reach for your listing because they want that pretty picture shared on their pages. So now they're showing it to their friends, and now all of a sudden, instead of my audience, it's mine and their audience. And you do that for multiple pieces, and now you're just fully extending your reach.
So smart. So I had a call with a developer this morning. I'll give you access to it. It's actually a wicked building we're going to sell. The units
Yeah.
would be right up your alley, especially for investors. But one of the strategies we're actually using for the launch of this building is our production company had an influencer in this exact town yesterday doing content, lifestyle content for some businesses that we're helping out. Right. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we can do the same thing for your building, bring in these influencers and these people, do lifestyle photography, videography around his building, and you're going to get access to hundreds of thousands of people that are from the GTA, like the exact market. I'll probably get you down and send you down to this place and say, hey, we'll feature Miranda, because you're an agent and you're in that space too. So I think your holistic approach to marketing goes beyond just listing a property, putting out an MLS and hoping it sells. Like,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you're creating something much bigger than just banking on the MLS. And I think this is going to carry your career way past that. How do you think about the current state of the real estate industry? And, why are you choosing to separate yourself in such a unique way?
I always felt like real estate when I first left corporate marketing was the industry where I could combine all the things I find fun. Obviously design and all that. I'm actually pleasantly surprised because I'm finding with, the proliferation of social media, a lot of folks are really kind of finding themselves as agents, and it's not just boring like me in a suit on a bus ad anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, you can still do that, but the conversations I'm having with people and the podcasts like yours that people are making, they're very insightful, and you can really get a sense of people's personality with video, and with social media. So
Mhm.
if you're asking about like as a job of other agents, I think they're doing a pretty spectacular job. And I think competition is healthy because it just keeps the bar getting higher for consumers, which is better for them at the end of the day.
I agree 1,000%. I'm not going to be filling a truck with furniture and staging, and I could care less what the fridge looks like. So I'll pay good people to do that for me. And that's the cool
Yeah.
thing, right? Like I
Yeah.
know my lane, I know what I like to do. And I think your biggest takeaway I see for the audience here is finding what you're passionate about and integrating that to your work and not separating them, because so many agents go the other way where they
Yeah.
get in the industry, they see the person on the bus sign, they just look at somebody's success and they're like, hey, I got to copy what they're doing. Meanwhile, that life is going to make that person miserable. Yet you've done it in such a unique way where you incorporated you, and that's led to growth in your business in a very, very different way. So I commend you on that. And I think you're doing an exceptional job.
Thanks.
So we're going to get into the rapid fire questions. I got 5 questions for you. I typically ask this to all my guests, and then I'm going to be thoughtful of your time and get you out of here. Up to this point, what is the greatest lesson you have learned?
Ooh, probably what you just touched on is that you really can go amazing places when you're owning yourself and not trying to be like everyone else, which I did try to do at the beginning of my career. But in the last like full year, I would say I'm just doubling down on the design. And if it's not slightly design related, I'm like, you know what? I could get a referral fee for this and someone else will help you better than me.
Get this lady an award. It takes agents 25 years to learn that, and staying focused, you end up doing quite a bit better. But that said, given you know yourself and you're having so much fun, there's got to be like 20% of your brain that's like learning something new or something that makes you uncomfortable that isn't in your core competency. What are you learning right now?
Wow, what am I learning? Well, I honestly have always been in a very strong market before recently. So I've yet to see like things really not sell quickly, but I'm gonna be learning how to have those hard conversations with folks. And I think when you're in a market like that, that's when the experience in person matters the most. So we're doing the best we can, but at the end of the day, price is still a huge factor in that first impression for people. And if it's just not making the mark, they're not going to see the listing. So to ignore the numbers it would be silly of me. But I've been very lucky to be able to like have like hot markets. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the price, really.
Have you read the book Shift?
I haven't, no.
Well,
Add that to my list, writing it down.
I'm going to gift you the audiobook. Do you listen to audiobooks?
I listen to audiobooks all the time.
I figured you would. That's why I said audiobook. I'm going to have Sheena, Eric, make a note to actually have Sheena send her a copy of the audiobook after the episode. It speaks to that, right? And I think getting around a good group of people that want to see you win can help you with that. So I'm a resource for you whenever you want as well. The next question, rapid fire round. How has failure shaped your life?
I don't really think of it as failure ever. I think of it as just a lesson. So I think I'm just kind of fearless, like knock on wood, with that, and try not to like think of it as failure. I'm just like, I quit my corporate job with nothing lined up. I didn't even know I was going to go into real estate. And my dad was like, what are you doing? He was like, do not do that. But I was like, when you're forcing yourself to fail, and also not seeing them as dead ends, I think that you can completely shift your brain and just keep climbing.
You are not defined by failure. You are refined by it. And if Prime was there, you'd be working with me for sure. I'd be remiss to not ask you this question because I got a bunch of back channel messages about it. I'm brand new to TikTok. I feel like it's too late. How do I get started? It's super overwhelming.
It's not too late. I helped some really amazing agent last week post her first video, and her first video got, I think last time I checked, over 30,000 views for her listing. It's not too late. Just think about it. I'm actually working on a guide for this, but think about it as a newspaper headline. Everything needs to happen quick. You got to be interesting right off the bat, which is, it takes practice. The hardest part is just doing it. Do it, learn, keep growing. Think of it from like a third party unbiased perspective. Would you want to watch the video that you made? And if you kind of like think of those things, I think you'll be just fine.
Well, talking about, getting good people around you, I'm totally going to DM you after and be like, what am I doing wrong? Just tell me. I've had a couple of videos pop, but yeah, getting constructive criticism, I think can be super, super helpful, right?
TikTok is a very authentic place. Like they want to see people without makeup. They want to see people like real. So, Sirhan says this all the time. People don't want to be sold to. They want to shop with friends. Yeah. And I think it's ever more a thing on TikTok. So when you're just a real person, and you're showing people that and thinking about like keeping it short at the same time, it's yeah, like the salesy videos don't do well. I'm not saying you're doing that, but I've seen
No,
other
for sure.
people.
I agree. It's funny. I've been doing like live streams while I'm fishing on a paddleboard, just answering questions, and those have been actually doing phenomenally well because I'm
Yeah,
doing silly stuff, right? And it's a different language for sure than the other platforms.
there's people in the world who don't live near water, so seeing you just sitting on water is like incredible for them. They want it, and then they feel like they're there with you.
Yeah, except for when user 457888 comes in and says the stupidest things I've ever read in my life. I can't with some of the comments on TikTok. They're pretty bad.
Just reply to all of them and just recognize that comments means reach, and they're helping the algorithm like understand that people are conversing with you, and that's all that matters. Just don't take it personally. That's all you got to do. Unless, like, as long as you're a nice person, that's fine.
100%. Well, I see YouTube in your future as well too. Jeremy Knight was on last week and he talked about that. I went down a 27 comment wormhole on my market update video, and I was kind and empathetic and like everything. And he's like, it's great for engagement. He's like, thank them for being a fan. He's like, it'll drive them nuts. And then thank them at the end for the engagement because it actually helps your algorithm. But the most important question, because you made time for us. How can I add value to you? Is there something you're working on? You want to audit my audience? My platform is yours. You're standing at the top of a mountain and you can say whatever you want to say. My platform is yours.
You know, this is going to prove to other people that they can do it by just doing it. I need help figuring out all this mic stuff. I can't connect the cords. I don't know. I'll talk to you about it after, but I'm like, what does this do? I have it plugged in. It's not working.
I'm going to actually, producer Eric, can you call her after this? I'll connect you to, and he actually sets up tech for live stuff. So there you go. There's your answer, Miranda. I will have Eric call you.
It just goes to show that like you can do it with a phone though. You don't need more than what you already have in your pocket. So people thinking they don't have the equipment, you know, you can upgrade later, but now just start. That's all you need to do.
I love that so much. Well, thank you everybody for being here. I see all the comments. We're going to go back and reply after. Make sure you connect with Miranda. Scroll up. Her link to TikTok is there. Connect with her on the other channels. Make sure you smash the subscription notification button so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're listening to the Prime People audio podcast, check us out on YouTube and share this out. Tag somebody that you think would appreciate this insight and send Miranda a DM. I'm sure she gets a lot of them, but I'm sure she would appreciate hearing from you. I'll catch you on the next one, Miranda.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. See ya.
Bye.